Hello there, welcome. Welcome to Math Simplified for You. My name is C.A. Ramakrishnan. And continuing with our series on how to lose marks in class 10, today I have got statistics special for you. How to lose marks in mean. The first way to lose marks is trying to use a different method than what is mentioned in the question paper. If the question paper asks you to use a shortcut also known as assumed mean method and you use some other method and surprisingly you get the correct answer, doesn't matter. You will not be given full marks. You will be given marks for finding the correct answer and also finding X because this X has to be found in all the three methods. There is a reason why they ask you to use a certain method, and we will analyze that with this sum. Now, here we have 1 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 30, 31 to 40, and we will find X. What is X? The mid value, lower limit plus upper limit by 2. 1 plus 10, that is 11, and 11 by 2 is 5.5. So we get 5.5, 15.5, 25.5 and 35.5. Now here we see that the number of observations are even. So you have two middle terms. Either this or this can be taken as A. But you should always take the number corresponding to the higher frequency. Like in front of 25.5 you have only 9. But in front of 15.5 you have 17, which is higher. So we must take this as A or the assumed mean. One mistake that students make is taking A from F, that is from the frequency. How can you? If you look at the formula itself tells you that it's X minus A and not F minus A. Clear? And why do we have to use the specified method? Now see, would you actually like to multiply 17 times of 15.5 or 9 times of 25.5? Absolutely not. That's why they asked you not to use direct method for this sum perhaps, to make your job easy. Now look at what happens when I take assumed mean method. This is going to be minus 10, 0, 10 and 20. Look at the numbers, and multiplying F with D is now convenient and you will get a beautiful looking FD. Now, when we multiply, obviously this will be negative, this will be 0, this will be positive, this will be positive. And students make one more mistake here. So I will recommend you what? You add up all the negatives and get negative something, and you add up all the positives and get positive something, and do the operation here. Do not forget the sign. Summation FD, you may get positive, negative or even 0. Doesn't matter. In fact, if you get summation FD to be 0, that eases your calculation even more. So please do take care of the sign. Do not just add up all at the same time. Now, next, the answer in two decimal place. Yeah, let's analyze that portion. A plus summation FD by summation F is the formula. Even if you use a different variation of this formula depending on your board, doesn't matter, but this is the basic. Now, after doing this, say you get 17.486. Now here, this digit, that is the third digit from the decimal to the right of decimal, is more than 5. If this digit is more than or equal to 5, this immediately will become 17.49 and you will add up with the assumed mean to get the answer in two decimal place. Again, if the answer to this is 17.484, since this number is less than 5, which means if I get a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the third place after the decimal, I will take it as 17.48 and add with the assumed mean. See, when they ask you to leave the answer in two decimal place, they expect you to divide and find three decimal place and round off. Not only for mean, this is actually true for heights and distances, mensuration, or in fact for any chapter you are expected to leave the answer in two decimal place always. Remember that. Now, the class interval is not continuous here. Doesn't matter. You do not have to convert the class interval into a continuous form to find mean. You are going to get the same answer whether the class interval is continuous or discontinuous. I'm sure you will not make these mistakes anymore in your examination paper. And now we will dive into mode. Let's dive into mode now. It does not matter whether you are going to plot it on a graph, that means estimating mode through a histogram, or use a formula as per your board requirement. The class interval must be continuous. To explain the continuity in class interval, I have deliberately taken a class interval which is not continuous. Now, if you look at this number and this number, the upper limit of any class and the lower limit of the succeeding class, they are not same. So if this is 40, 41, 50, 51, 60, 61. This is neither plottable on a graph or histogram nor usable in any formula. So how do I convert? I will subtract 0.5 from the lower limit and add 0.5 to the upper limit to get true or actual lower limit and upper limit. So if I lower the lower limit and higher the upper limit, this is what happening. So this becomes 30.5 to 40.5. 41 minus 0.5 is 40.5. 50 plus 0.5 is 50.5, and so on and so forth. So this is going to be continuous now. Now watch. 40.5, 40.5, 50.5, 50.5. That's it. Now this is not usable anymore. You will basically use this class boundary and frequency both for graph and for the formula. Now, let's dive into graph now. Not labeling. See, this is a typical an x and y axis that I have taken. Not labeling. What do you mean by not labeling? Not writing x, not writing y, not writing origin. Also, not mentioning x-axis means what for this sum? It has to be class interval. Y-axis means what? It has to be frequency. And I have left a gap between the origin and the x-axis. What for? This is to show you what a kink is. Why do we need a kink in this sum? If you look at this class, it starts from 30.5, right? And then goes to 40.5. What happens to 0 to 30.5? That is not plottable here. We are not going to waste our space in the graph to plot all those things. We will only start the graph from 30.5 on the x-axis. So right here you will write 30.5. You will take 10 or 15 or 20 boxes, I don't know what you are going to do, and plot 40.5, again 50.5, and so on. Now this takes me to the next point, that is writing a scale. Now there are two ways of writing a scale. First is writing dash centimeter equal to that dash unit, or dash many boxes equal to dash unit. Remember, the scale may be different for both the axes. It doesn't matter. You will still get the answer. So you are done with labeling. You are done with writing a scale, origin, kink, everything is done. Now, this one, ruler. You see, I have seen students, I don't know for what joy, they do not want to use a ruler while joining especially the top ends of the histogram. Now, this will affect your answer negatively, which means you may not get the accurate answer. Now, the use of ruler. Please, for heaven's sake, you use ruler throughout histogram. do not do anything freehand except the kink. You see, if you join the top ends of a histogram freehand, you see, it may look like you've drawn a straight line. But when you actually join these 2 points to get the mode, you will see that you are not getting an accurate mode. So make sure you use ruler no matter how small the line is. Please use ruler or else you will not get accurate mode. Hopefully you will not make these mistakes of not converting a class interval into class boundaries if the class interval is not continuous. You will not make the mistake of not labeling and writing the scale, and you will not make the mistake of not using the ruler. Now let's see how exactly students lose marks with median. Does not matter whether you are going to estimate median using an ogive or a cumulative frequency curve or using a formula, the class interval must be continuous. This is why again I have taken a non-continuous class interval and I am going to show you once again how to convert it into a class boundaries. So if you see the difference between this number and this number is 1, you will divide that by 2, you are going to get 0.5. You will lower the lower limit and higher the upper limit. That means you will keep adding to the upper limit and keep subtracting it from the lower limit. So this gives us 100.5 to 110.5, 110.5 to 120.5, 120.5 to 130.5, 130.5 to 140.5. Now this is plottable and usable. Now all the calculations will be based on class boundaries, not on the basis of class interval. Now the cumulative frequency. Remember, you cannot estimate median without a cumulative frequency. So let's find the cumulative frequency. 3, 10, 16, 18. This is the n. Okay? N also represents n also represents the number of people in this group. Now that the class interval has been converted into a continuous one and we also have cumulative frequency, the question is what to plot. You will always be plotting the cumulative frequency and the upper limit of the converted class, not this. Okay, so this is x and y axis. Let me do the formalities of completing this graph structure. This is arrowhead y, arrowhead x, origin. We need a kink, of course, because you see the class interval starts from 100.5 and x-axis will definitely represent class interval as usual. But here on the y-axis, in case of ogive or cumulative frequency curve, it is going to be cumulative frequency, not frequency. So you will have to be very careful when you stake the scale on the y-axis. You will have to make sure the highest number of the cumulative frequency also fits in comfortably on the y-axis. Remember, if the scale is already given to you, you are bound to use that scale. If not, then it's your choice. With that, I will talk about the scale. So you have a gap of 10 here, that is a class width of 10. So you will start plotting right from here, 100.5 to 110.5 to 120.5 and so on. Okay. Now, if you are taking 10 small boxes and if you are using a 2 mm graph, you can say 2 centimeter equals to 10 units here, or 10 small squares equal to 10 units here for the x-axis. And you may take in fact, you will have to take a different scale for y-axis or else it won't fit in most of the graphs. Now remember, an ogive has to be a rising curve, which indirectly tells you you will have to use cumulative frequency, not frequency. If you look at the frequency, it is not rising. You have 3 and then it goes up to 7, then comes down to 6 and further down to 2 this way. But a cumulative frequency curve is a rising one, so you cannot use frequency. This is a mistake I have seen students doing. Now the question is, what exactly has to be plotted? You will be plotting the upper limit and the cumulative frequency. So you will plot them like this. This is just a rough sketch. And you will join using a free hand. While joining the dots, remember the curves should be as smooth as possible to get answer as accurate as possible. Now, if you see, we have started from 110.5 and what do I do? How do I join? You will join it with the lower limit of the first class. Okay? Now, the time to find median, lower quartile and upper quartile. You will do n by 2, n by 4, 3n by 4. I don't want to talk about that. You know that very well. Whether it is lower quartile, upper quartile or median, remember it starts from the y-axis and reaches the ogive and goes down to touch the x-axis. That means for median, this is what I'll do. I'll draw a line like this. Please use a scale here. Put an arrow. Please use a scale here and put an arrow. And as it meets the ogive, take it down. This is your median. For lower quartile again, you will draw a line like this, a horizontal line, starting from the y-axis. Wherever it meets the ogive, go down here. This gives you Q1, that is the lower quartile. Similarly, for upper quartile, you'll go like this and go down. This will give you Q3. But for the rest of the subparts, it will always start from the x-axis, meet the ogive and go to meet the y-axis. Only for lower quartile, upper quartile and median, we start from the y-axis, meet the ogive and go down to x-axis. For the rest, it's always the reverse process.